In the cold silence between distant stars lies the Koprulu Sector, a frontier where survival is never guaranteed and peace is only a fleeting illusion. Here, empires rise from the ashes of forgotten worlds, and ancient powers awaken beneath alien skies. Humanity, cast away from Earth centuries ago, has carved out fragile colonies among the stars. These Terrans fight not only against hostile environments and rival factions, but against their own ambition, greed, and thirst for control. Their ships roam the void like drifting fortresses, their cities glow under artificial suns, and their wars echo across planets that barely remember what peace feels like. Yet humanity is not alone. From the darkest reaches of space comes the Zerg, an ever-evolving swarm driven by a singular purpose: to consume, to adapt, and to perfect themselves through assimilation. They descend upon worlds like a living storm, overwhelming civilizations with endless numbers and terrifying biological might. To the Zerg, individuality is meaningless. Only evolution matters. Only the swarm endures. Standing against them are the Protoss, an ancient and noble species whose technological mastery is matched only by their spiritual depth. For millennia they have walked a path guided by honor and unity, wielding psionic power that bends the very fabric of reality. But even their advanced civilization is not immune to division and tragedy. As the Zerg spread and the Terrans struggle for dominance, the Protoss find themselves drawn into a conflict that threatens to unravel the destiny of the entire sector. This is a story of war that spans galaxies and generations. It is a tale of heroes forged in fire and villains born from betrayal. Commanders, rebels, queens, and warriors will rise and fall as alliances shift and destinies collide. From the ashes of shattered worlds to the depths of uncharted space, every battle fought shapes the fate of countless lives. In the universe of StarCraft, survival demands sacrifice, loyalty is constantly tested, and even the strongest empires can crumble beneath the weight of ambition. Prepare to enter a universe where strategy decides survival, where evolution never stops, and where three powerful factions clash in a struggle that will determine the future of the stars. This is the saga of StarCraft, a story not just of war, but of legacy, transformation, and the relentless pursuit of destiny in a universe forever at war. In the far reaches of the Koprulu Sector, the story of humanity begins not with triumph, but with exile. Long before the great wars of the sector, prisoners, dissidents, and political outcasts from Earth were launched into deep space aboard automated colony ships. Stripped of their past and cast into the unknown, these survivors became the Terrans, resilient, adaptable, and fiercely determined to endure. Over generations, they established colonies across harsh and uncharted worlds, building cities under hostile skies and forging a civilization defined by struggle and ambition. But humanity carried its flaws with it. Corporate greed, political corruption, and power struggles quickly fractured Terran society. The dominant Terran Confederacy ruled with an iron grip, exploiting frontier colonies while suppressing dissent. In the shadows, rebels and outlaws rose to challenge this authority. Among them was Jim Raynor, a former marshal whose sense of justice drove him into conflict with the very system he once served. His journey from lawman to revolutionary would shape the fate of the sector. The Confederacy's fall came through manipulation and ambition, orchestrated by Artanis Mengsk, a charismatic rebel leader who promised liberation but sought absolute control. Through calculated strikes and devastating betrayals, Mengsk dismantled the old regime and established the Terran dominion, crowning himself emperor. His rise marked a new era, one where order was enforced through military strength and propaganda rather than freedom. Caught in the middle of these shifting powers was Kerrigan, a powerful psionic operative whose fate would intertwine with both Terran and alien forces. Her transformation would become one of the most pivotal events in the history of the sector, altering the balance of power forever. The Terran story within StarCraft is one of survival against overwhelming odds. It is a narrative shaped by flawed leaders, reluctant heroes, and a constant fight for independence in a universe that offers little mercy. As rival factions rise and alien threats loom ever closer, humanity stands at a crossroads, torn between tyranny and freedom, unity and rebellion. Their struggle will ignite wars that stretch across the stars, setting the stage for a conflict that will engulf every world in the Koprulu Sector. Beyond the reach of Terran colonies and far from the ancient temples of the Protoss, a force unlike any other began to stir, a living tide of claws, teeth, and endless hunger. The Zerg are not merely a species. They are a collective will made flesh, driven by instinct, guided by evolution, and unified under a single consciousness. Born from relentless genetic manipulation and guided by the all-seeing overmind, the swarm exists for one purpose: to seek perfection through assimilation. Every creature they encounter becomes either prey or potential. Worlds are not conquered. They are consumed, reshaped, and reborn as extensions of the swarm's will. The Zerg's arrival in the Koprulu Sector changed everything. Their first incursions were swift and devastating, overrunning Terran outposts and forcing the Protoss to respond with equal brutality. Entire planets were overrun in days, their ecosystems twisted into alien breeding grounds. To the swarm, individuality is irrelevant. Each drone, warrior, and Leviathan is part of a greater whole, acting with terrifying coordination. Their strength lies not just in numbers, but in their ability to evolve. With every battle, they adapt. With every enemy, they grow stronger. At the heart of their story stands Sarah Kerrigan, once a Terran ghost operative, betrayed and left to die amidst a Zerg invasion. Instead of perishing, she was transformed, reborn as the Queen of Blades, a being who embodied both human cunning and Zerg ferocity. Under her command, the swarm gained not only power but direction. Kerrigan's rise reshaped the Zerg hierarchy, challenging ancient structures and forging a new era of dominance. Her presence blurred the line between monster and leader, vengeance and destiny. The Zerg are more than mindless destruction. They are guided by purpose, driven by the need to become the ultimate life form. Their broods spread across the stars, reshaping planets like Char into blazing hives of evolution and war. Wherever they appear, the balance of power shifts, forcing Terran and Protoss alike to confront an enemy that cannot be reasoned with and cannot be contained for long. Within the universe of StarCraft, the Zerg represent the raw force of nature unleashed, a reminder that in the grand scale of the cosmos, survival often belongs not to the strongest empire, but to the species willing to change, adapt, and consume everything in its path. Among the stars of the Koprulu Sector, the Protoss stand as one of the most ancient and powerful civilizations ever to exist. Long before Terran colonies rose from exile or the Zerg descended upon unsuspecting worlds, the Protoss thrived on their radiant homeworld of Ire. Their society was built upon unity, discipline, and an intricate psionic bond known as the Kala, a communal link that connected every Protoss mind into a shared sense of purpose. Through this connection, they achieved technological wonders and spiritual harmony, becoming guardians of order in a chaotic galaxy. Yet beneath their perfection lay division. Some Protoss rejected the Kala, believing that individuality and free thought were essential for true strength. These outcasts became known as the Dark Templar, exiled from Ire and forced to survive in the shadows. Though separated, their paths would one day converge again as the Zerg threat grew too great to ignore. The Protoss would learn that unity did not always mean conformity, and that survival demanded adaptation as much as tradition. The Protoss' first major confrontation with the Zerg reshaped their destiny forever. Bound by a strict code of honor and guided by ancient prophecy, they sought to contain the swarm before it could spread beyond control. Leading this effort was Tassadar, a noble commander whose willingness to embrace forbidden knowledge changed the course of the war. By working alongside the enigmatic Dark Templar, Tassadar discovered that only by combining their strengths could the Protoss hope to stand against the Zerg's relentless evolution. His sacrifice would become a defining moment in Protoss history, symbolizing unity through diversity and courage in the face of annihilation. Alongside him walked Zerg, a mysterious Dark Templar whose wisdom and foresight revealed deeper cosmic truths, and Artanis, a young warrior who would one day rise to lead his people toward a new future. Together, these figures represent the Protoss struggle, not just against external enemies, but against internal division and the weight of their own legacy. In the universe of StarCraft, The Protoss embody both ancient strength and fragile hope. Their golden fleets and towering warriors are symbols of a civilization striving to preserve its honor while confronting the harsh reality of change. As their homeworld burns and their people scatter among the stars, the Protoss must redefine what it means to be united, not through blind tradition, but through shared purpose. Their legacy is not merely one of power, but of sacrifice, redemption, and the enduring belief that even in a galaxy consumed by war, honor can still guide the path forward. The aftermath of the first great conflicts left the Koprulu Sector scarred, but the true storm was only beginning. With empires weakened and alliances fractured, a new chapter of war ignited, one defined by shifting loyalties, calculated betrayals, and the relentless pursuit of power. This era, remembered as the Brood War, would reshape the destinies of Terran, Protoss, and Zerg alike. No faction emerged unchanged, and no leader escaped the cost of survival in a galaxy spiraling deeper into chaos. In the Terran sphere, the rise of the Dominion under Arcturus brought a harsh form of order to the scattered colonies. Yet even as he consolidated control, new forces arrived from beyond the sector. The United Earth Directorate launched an expedition to reclaim humanity's lost descendants, introducing advanced technology and a new political threat. Caught between empires and invasions stood rebels like Jim Raynor, whose struggle for freedom continued amidst a web of manipulation and war. Meanwhile, the Zerg Swarm underwent a transformation of its own. With the fall of the Overmind, control splintered among competing broods and ambitious leaders. From this chaos rose Kerrigan, now fully embracing her role as the Queen of Blades. Through cunning strategy and ruthless precision, she eliminated rivals and forged a new hierarchy under her command. Her ascent marked a turning point for the Swarm, shifting it from a singular collective mind to a force driven by her vision of dominance and survival. For the Protoss, the Brood War was a struggle to reclaim identity and home. Their once glorious world of Ire lay overrun, forcing survivors to regroup on distant worlds and reevaluate centuries of tradition. Leaders like Artanis and the enigmatic Zerg worked to unite fractured factions and preserve their people's legacy. The merging of Kalai and Dark Templar philosophies became essential for survival, symbolizing a new path forward for their civilization. The Brood War was not merely a series of battles. It was a crucible that tested every alliance and ambition within the sector. Empires rose only to fall, heroes faced impossible choices, and entire worlds became battlegrounds for supremacy. By the end of this brutal era, the balance of power had shifted dramatically, leaving the Koprulu Sector forever changed. Within the universe of StarCraft, Brood War, this chapter stands as one of the most pivotal and tragic periods in galactic history, a reminder that in the pursuit of victory, the cost is often greater than anyone can foresee. In the years following the devastation of the Brood War, the Koprulu Sector stood at a fragile crossroads. Empires were weakened, alliances were strained, and the scars of countless battles still marked the stars. Yet even as Terrans rebuilt their colonies, the Zerg consolidated power, and the Protoss sought a new home, a far greater threat loomed in the shadows, one that would test the very foundations of existence itself. The wars of the past had been brutal, but they were only preludes to a conflict that would decide the fate of all life in the sector. At the center of this unfolding era stood Jim Raynor, now a hardened rebel leader determined to challenge the Dominion's tyranny and protect what remained of humanity's freedom. His path intertwined once more with Kerrigan, whose destiny continued to evolve beyond that of a mere Zerg ruler. As Kerrigan confronted her past and the forces that shaped her transformation, she became a pivotal figure in the struggle against a rising cosmic darkness, one that threatened not just individual factions, but the entire galaxy. For the Protoss, unity became their greatest weapon. Under the leadership of Artanis, the scattered remnants of their people sought to reclaim honor and purpose. Their journey led them to confront ancient prophecies and forgotten enemies tied to the very origins of the Zerg. The mysterious wanderer Zerg uncovered visions of a coming apocalypse, revealing that the wars between Terran, Protoss, and Zerg were only part of a larger cosmic design. As hidden powers emerged from the void and ancient entities manipulated events from behind the scenes, former enemies were forced to reconsider their priorities. Survival demanded cooperation where once there had been only rivalry. Battles were no longer fought merely for territory or dominance, but for the future of existence itself. Each faction faced a defining choice: cling to old grudges or unite against a threat capable of erasing them all. Within the events of StarCraft II, this chapter represents the culmination of decades of war and transformation. The Koprulu Sector becomes the stage for a final reckoning, one where sacrifice, redemption, and unity shape the destiny of countless worlds. As heroes rise and legends reach their end, the legacy of the sector is forged not only through conflict, but through the courage to change. In a universe defined by war, the greatest victory may not be conquest, but survival together against the darkness beyond the stars. The universe of StarCraft is packed with hidden details, inspirations, and behind-the-scenes lore that many players never notice. The three main factions were intentionally designed to feel completely different not only in gameplay, but also in philosophy. The Terrans were inspired by classic sci-fi space marines and frontier Western themes, reflecting survival, rebellion, and political corruption. The Zerg drew heavy inspiration from hive-minded alien species in science fiction, particularly insect-like swarms that evolve rapidly. Meanwhile, the Protoss combined elements of high fantasy and advanced technology, blending the mysticism of ancient warrior cultures with sleek, futuristic design. One of the most iconic characters in the series is Kerrigan, whose transformation from Terran operative to Queen of Blades became one of gaming's most memorable character arcs. Her story of betrayal, evolution, and redemption helped define the emotional core of the franchise. Likewise, Jim Raynor was written as a grounded human perspective in a galaxy filled with larger-than-life forces, giving players a relatable hero navigating impossible choices. The Protoss language heard in the games was partially constructed to sound ancient and ceremonial, reinforcing their role as an old and highly spiritual civilization. Many Protoss names and terms were crafted to feel rhythmic and formal, adding depth to their culture beyond the battlefield. Additionally, the Zerg were designed so that most of their units appear organic and evolving rather than mechanical, reinforcing the idea that they are a constantly adapting species rather than a static army. The expansion StarCraft, Brood War, is often credited with turning the original game into a global esports phenomenon, especially in South Korea, where professional leagues and televised matches elevated StarCraft into a cultural staple. Competitive play helped keep the game alive for decades, influencing real-time strategy design and shaping the esports scene that followed. Beyond the games themselves, the StarCraft universe expanded into novels, comics, and cinematic storytelling, offering deeper insights into events only hinted at in missions. From hidden experiments to ancient prophecies and political conspiracies, the lore continues to evolve. These details remind fans that every unit on the battlefield, whether Marine, Zealot, or Zergling, exists within a much larger story of survival, destiny, and the endless struggle for control of the stars. And so, the war-torn stars of the Koprulu Sector continue to burn with the echoes of conflict, sacrifice, and destiny. The battles between Terran, Zerg, and Protoss have reshaped worlds, toppled empires, and forged legends whose stories will be remembered long after the last shots fade into silence. From the resilience of humanity's scattered colonies to the relentless evolution of the Swarm and the ancient honor of the Protoss, each faction carries a legacy written in both triumph and tragedy. The saga of StarCraft is more than a chronicle of interstellar warfare. It is a story about transformation. Heroes rise from unlikely beginnings, villains emerge from betrayal and ambition, and entire civilizations must confront the consequences of their choices. Figures like Jim Raynor, Kerrigan, and Artanis remind us that even in a universe defined by endless war, individual decisions can shape the fate of countless lives. Yet the story never truly ends. The stars remain contested, the future uncertain, and the echoes of past wars continue to shape what comes next. New threats may rise, alliances may fracture, and the balance of power may shift once more. But one truth endures across every battle and every generation. In the vast expanse of space, survival belongs to those willing to adapt, to unite, and to fight for something greater than themselves. As the final fleets drift across the silent void and the embers of war settle among distant worlds, the legacy of the Koprulu Sector lives on, an ever-unfolding tale of strategy, sacrifice, and destiny among the stars.